So you're living a lie. But when the moment begins to shape your thought and your feeling based on the fact that you're in the moment and you're connected to the moment, then you begin to stack your moments, and that creates two things, which are the past and the future. You actually begin to create your future by choosing different facets to recall from your past. In every moment, there is a vast amount, it isn't infinity, but there is a vast amount of information being broadcast into your being. Like all the radio stations of Los Angeles are being broadcast into your car. But it's up to you to turn the dial to choose which station you want to listen to in this moment. So in this moment, for you, in your life, there is the entire band of stations. And at the highest level, the stations are saying, you can walk on water. And at the lowest level, the stations are saying, if you go near water, you will drown. And everything in between. So how do you approach the water of your moment? And if you approach the water of your moment like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, I'm going to drown. If you don't ultimately drown, you at least have a horrible time not drowning. So you're either drowning in the water or drowning in your horrible time. So if you can walk on water, if that's the broadcast that you've been believing your whole life, you can walk on water, then you will often probably get this response from the mirror, and the mirror says, you are full of yourself, you are full of yourself, you are so full of yourself, you are full of yourself, you are so full of yourself. In the world at large, it is considered socially inappropriate to be full of yourself because the common denominator has become the lowest common denominator. It's called groupthink, or as they used to say, boarding school mentality. In boarding school, because you were not only in school with everyone, but you were also out of school with everyone. Anyone who became outstanding in the boarding school set a new standard that everybody else was really upset with. And so they would reach up and bring the higher standard down so that everyone could be average. And this world is just a very large boarding school. A one-room schoolhouse that you live in all the time. That's why we talk about footnotes. What are footnotes? Footnotes are that you can't come up with something brand new. You have to come up with something that somebody else came up with 50 years ago, 20 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago, and you have to footnote it just to show us that it's real. Are you kidding me? Something that is today has to be something that is verified by something of 200 years. Nothing in today's world is equal to what was 200 years ago, except for one thing, what they wrongly term education. Education is the only thing that is identical to the way it's been for a couple of hundred years. So therefore, it's not really educating us for today. It's educating us for whatever was existing 200 years ago. That's why kids don't pay attention, and they call it attention deficiency. But it isn't. It's just that there's nothing to pay attention to. If you've got something that you want me to pay attention to, then make it something that's current. Otherwise, I'm going to do everything else besides what you're asking me to do. And then you're going to say, I am, in some way, disabled. But then I will just wait until I get out of your jail, and then I'll make something of my life. And you see it all the time. You see the fact that people who drop out of that system make something really big in their lives. Steve Jobs, Thomas Edison, Bill Gates, Mother Teresa. A big dropout, Joan of Arc. She dropped out of all the standards that were supposed to be held for a woman in France at that time. It's time for you to establish your moments and not be concerned as to whether or not they're approved of. What do we always say in class here? We're not here to prove ourselves, we're here to improve ourselves, and we're definitely not here to be approved of. Because if anybody is in this room to be approved of, we're not teaching that subject. We're teaching the subject to make you ridiculous. So ridiculous that it'll be painful if you're trying to be approved of after you leave this room. Because we indoctrinate you. We brainwash you.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you brush your teeth, why wouldn't you brush your brain? Why would you not want to be brainwashed? It's like dirty brain is good? So if in every moment you can have any thought about anything, what thought do you want? Walk on water, drown in water.
Walk on water.
And what do they say? If you want to hit the moon, shoot for the stars. So your failure lands on the moon. Isn't that correct? So if you shoot to walk on water, then your failure is that you can swim. Which is not a bad thing. And then what happens is because you know that you can swim, isn't this interesting that before you swim, you can't stay afloat? Because you're afraid you're going to die? But if you actually died in that water, you would float. So it's your inaction that allows you to float. So if you believe that you can walk on water, then you will begin to shape your moments that will resemble that. But not right away. That's the crazy part. You have to be consistent and insistent for at least 7 years. The cycle of active karma. 7 years. You know they call it the 7-year? And they also say break a mirror. 7 years bad luck. Didn't we say it was the mirror? And that's what we, if we break, then that means 7 years that we'll have to pay off that broken relation. Yogi Bhajan used to always say, never break a relationship. You can just stop using it. But you don't have to break it. You can just set it on the shelf. And what is it about a relationship that hurts when you break it? The fact that you are going to have to pay for that breakage. Right? So you just become inactive. And that's so filled with respect. It's not that you're bad, because what are you saying? If I walk up and say, oh my God, you're so horrible, what am I pointing at?
Yourself.
In that which is a mirror, obvious mirror. You. It's me. So if I turn to somebody and go, ew, get out of here, you're horrible, I don't want to see you again. The pain that I'm going to experience in that, if I'm sensitive, if I'm overriding the pain, if I'm numbing the pain with something else, right? Then I won't feel it. But if I'm sensitive, I'm going to feel the fact that I just threw myself out, an aspect of myself out. And the interesting thing is, in the ecology of the earth, the same thing happens when we extinguish a species. Every species is a reflection of us. We as humans have been through all of those incarnations. So when we, when we eliminate, and we're eliminating right and left, whether they're botanical or biological, plants or animals, when we eliminate species, we're eliminating a facet of human existence that is essential in order for us to reach that enlightenment. I remember one time that the little one was having quite a fit, and Yogi Bhajan walking around like this, lecturing, and he walks up and he picks up the young child to see if there can be any comfort, and he's walking around and he's talking, and all of a sudden the reason for the fit, what would we say, appeared. And what had the child done?